Alright, now let's get to Pokitaru. Again, I like that the fact that they foreshadow in this case the hydro displacers on Aridia, with Skidman Max accidentally getting the blueprints of them.
So I dig how basically this story is a hey, what if we didn't fail that one planet that, well, okay, not the one, but Battalia in the movie got ravaged. Whereas in
No,
this
the
version, it
the one
seems
in the movie
fine.
that got ravaged was Novaris, Drova.
Never mind, my bad. I got it confused because Snow Planet and all that. So I guess we have yet to reach that plot point
Yeah, so
from the
don't worry,
movie
we'll
yet.
get there. All right, and now we need to meet with the brother of, as mentioned, the mentor character of Ratchet, John Goodman's character. Again,
I'll admit,
the
when it
fact that Insomnia bothered to take the occasion and bothered to expand a bit the lore on the guy, because in the movie he really just was there for the pep talks, because, John Goodman. Is at the very least, worth say, oh, at least they tried.
Well, dip me in breadcrumbs and feed me to a snaggle beast. Grim told me he was friends with the Lombacks, but I didn't believe him.
I'll admit, when it
I've
comes to
never
the Ratchet
seen
and
one in
Clank
real
series,
life. You
I'm
must
more
be
of a
right.
visual reminder kind of guy. Like, I remember stuff better by their visuals than by names in the Ratchet and
Uncanny,
Clank
I know.
series. I'm not sure why exactly, but yeah,
Well,
part
they
of
did
why I
mention,
missed it.
Insomniac
Those
themselves
things
did
were gonna have to
mention in the
upgrade
Insomniac
soon.
Museum
It
of
just so happens
A
that this
Crack in Time.
upgrade
They
in the
bothered to make
galaxy's here
each
for a
character stand out so
constellation.
much so
Follow me, I'll
that
take you
you'll
to
be
'em.
able to recognize them from a silhouette without knowing their names.
It's true and very effective in that regard. But yeah, that's sort of why I mistook the ice planet for,
Morphoids have been
well, the
coming
ice
ashore
planet we
ever
were
since the
trying to
Blargs
protect in the
started
movie,
attacking.
but failed
Those
to in that
levels
regard.
were tasty as raw
And
cookable.
like you said, they probably made it an ice planet in this version to, fill out the ice level trope.
I already mentioned why. Anyway, much like in the original game, this is not anything an escort mission, but move to from one place to another. It's just that they bothered to insert a couple more stuff to make the thing more, spicy. Let's just say that.
Yeah, in the original game, we actually came here mostly to chill. I mean, obviously to do some stuff, but it felt more like a resort, whereas here it
There
definitely
still
feels
is a
like there's
resort.
more emphasis.
There still is a resort, but there's less a sense of Ratchet is here to fuck around, and we just stumbled into one of the plots of the Blargs, and they knew in advance that they came here to destroy the hydro displacers.
They also established that it's a lot more dangerous in this version. Again, I mean, there was danger in the original, but here they emphasize that it seems a lot more dangerous, which, again, could be interesting to add to the social commentary on people trying to profit off of a vacation spot that's clearly too dangerous, but that's not quite what this version of Ratchet and Clank is going for, sadly. Again, I'm not saying that it's the worst thing ever that, the wit and social commentary from the original is gone. I get that, even in this day and age in 2016, some people might not really have been here for that and whatnot. Uh, I don't know. I just feel like the story doesn't have as much to say without it, sadly.
It's also, you might have noticed that both in the previous planet, both 2 planets ago, on the one where we got the jetpack, and in this, they bother to have the crab-like monsters that you normally fight on the Blarg home planet if you had a keen eye, and also some of the pterodactyls. This is because, as you can imagine, since we're following the plot of the movie, when we eventually get to the Blarg's home planet, it will not be instead carbon copied from the original game, and instead will have to fit with the movie's narrative and aesthetics. You'll be able to see in the next part. So instead they bother to, repurpose some of the monsters that you encounter on that planet somewhere else, because, why not?
Grim and I used to trek to the top of that thing every holiday looking for gold.
Also, yeah, even with this dialogue, we get to know more about Ratchet's mentor that we didn't know in the movie. Again, someone,
Which,
someone, notably TJ Fixman, at least tried.
You know, I kind of find it hilarious because way back in the earlier years of video games, people would scoff at the idea of video games having stories that would dare even match the content of something from a book or movie. And yet now here we are in 2016 where the game is clearly outdoing the movie in terms of story.
I mean,
Like,
it's
it's
not
got
a
the
particularly hard job if the movie in itself, the source material, did not add much to work on.
That sort of thing.
But again, like, I just love the irony of this stance here. Like, and granted, people are now willing to admit that more better here and there, but
Hold on
aside
this
from the
line.
obvious thing that...
Ratchet, actually, he literally sent you the infobot saying that he knew what was happening and told that he was proud of you. Okay, now this is a part where I need to chat to ask, did nobody, proofread the script for this part?
Which is weird because they've been doing a relatively good job up to this point, and
in
that's
case you're
kind
wondering,
of a weird omission.
In case you're wondering, no, it's not even a case of, you can accidentally get this dialogue after the infobot, because remember, that's the infobot that gets you to this planet, so it's a cutscene that the player is bound to get, before getting these. It's almost, it makes me wonder if the cutscene with the infobot was supposed to be something else, or just the infobot that, told in a generic way, but then got reworked possibly last minute.
Like, my best guess would be that... Okay, assuming that they didn't make a blatant mistake out of nowhere, maybe there was actually some executive mandates that did force them to focus more on John Goodman's character, and maybe his brother was a bit of a last-minute addition, and that's why things are spotty.
Especially because, if you remember, the alien that you accompany in the original game in this part, was a completely different species, obviously.
So, like, again, that's my best guess, assuming it's not just a simple somebody just done goofed.
Possible. Still, you can, again, missions like these makes you notice how the thing that I mentioned in the original game, how this game in particular still has a lot, and I mean a lot of the soul that the Spyro games had, particularly to the whole help NPCs in small areas and they follow you around like that. Also, they couldn't let me destroy these chairs? That's so weird.
They're indestructible!
But they have ragdoll
in,
physics.
Technology and furniture.
It's so weird.
You know, if this were 2006, I'd joke that it's them wanting to show off that Havoc physics engine.
That usually Java tends to apply with a basketball court. That's usually how did you get to show how cool your physics engine is.
Well, remember, Sonic 06 basically made Silver sort of centered around the Havoc physics engines, essentially, to the point where some people have nicknamed him Havoc the Hedgehog, essentially.
Alright,
show off all of the cool things you can do with the furniture.
Alright, in this version, in order to streamline things, it's not someone else that gives you the upgrade to the helipack, but instead it's Al himself who has went here, if he has gone here. If you paid that keen attention to what he was saying when he was in Adiro City, he did mention that he was going to Pokitaru, so there was technical foreshadowing for this. It's more streamlining, for the sake of that.
Yeah, like in the original game, admittedly,
it was just another scientist.
I'll admit. Yeah, and I'll admit, in the original game, stuff kind of just happened to the protagonist, which, mind you, is not a bad idea, but it could sometimes feel a bit weird where 1 minute things were high-octane serious, and the next thing it's, chillaxing beach vacay
Oh my god,
vibes.
seriously, Al?
Your call. I have Lexi Orion's entire anthology here, and I can sing through it track by track.
Yeah.
Lovely.
All hail Big Al the Conqueror.
Okay.
Go on.
The glory of his level 20 spell.
Get it because he's a nerd. Ah, laugh.
Yeah, that's one of the weird things to keep in 20...
that's
16,
clearly
since by this point,
that's
nerd-
clearly still one of the traits of TJ Fixman about depicting nerds as 80s stereotypes of nerds.
We're here to help take out these hydroharvesters. You think you could help us
Like, to
upgrade
be
our
fair, in the
system?
2000s,
Always
well, yeah, we
help
still
protect
had the
Rangers.
nerd
How about
culture
a
stuff kind of being a little bit weird and wonky, but
polarized
by the
electoral
2010s, the word nerd wasn't even basically a dirty word. People were actually proud of being nerds by that point.
Sounds like exactly what we need. You lead the way. We'll cover you.
Alright, so in order to, before getting the upgrade in this version, we need to actually defeat the Hydro Displacers, while instead you got it immediately in the original game. Look, more power pods
Also,
and
hey, here's...
more power pods and fungoids.
Are those?
Yeah,
Are those people alright there? Or they're just dancing up and down to like no music?
That's because this is supposed to be a karaoke bar, but you know, the music is not very perceptive.
Also, I do like how that's a nice little preview and foreshadowing of a lot of races that would show up later in the future.
Like, well,
series and
remember, that's
whatnot.
because these are the same species that were in the movie, the fungoids and the tarpods. It's just that, and on a practical level, they just recycle the assets.
Again, like, I will say this. I do feel like they had some good ideas for this remake.
Hold on, I think Big Al is about to drop a bit of a line here.
They showed up just as I was about to speak on a panel about everything wrong with comic book-based holo films. All the great bloggers were on it. Me, Stuart.
Oh,
Zergo.
great.
I'm
Stuart
thinking
Zergo is also in this, but hold on.
And Smoot was there? Really? Oh, I love her. She hates everything.
There isn't a holo film, game, or online product launch she hasn't shredded in the comment section. You know, that kind of judgment takes real skill.
I could
So,
make a,
space influencers.
I could make a joke about how poignant that is, but I'd rather not. Moving
You know,
on.
again, this is-
I'm not going there either.
You know, this is kind of the weird thing, though. So, one minute you have humor about nerds that belongs, you know, back in the 2000s at best, but then you suddenly switch over to something that's clearly a lot
Oh,
more
don't worry,
modern.
Jobba.
since-
We'll get a hashtag joke in a few parts.
And get you that weapon system.
God,
Reinstalling weapon
I think by the
software.
time in 2025 or 2026,
And
hashtags,
again, to
I
be
mean,
fair, you know, the movie did have a hashtag joke in the sequence where Quark is reaching the planetizer. It says hashtag not a mole.
you know what? Fair enough. That was still the style of humor around the time then, though I will admit. Okay, people do sometimes say hashtag insert quote here and there, but I don't know. Something about it feels dated here.
Alright, the hydro harvesters, not the hydro displacer is your gadget, my bad. See, we got the idea.
Anyway,
Space
airship
battle.
battle time.
Yeah, you like as Vigal said, you need to use the missiles in order to defeat them. Metroid style, basically. They're immune to your basic weapon, but you need the missiles to deal, you know, actually a lot of damage. So, and again, they work
I'm guessing-
literally like the dragons in Fireworks Factory, like defeat the different appendages, and then they go down.
I forget if we get, like, the beach challenges in this version. I think we don't, if I recall correctly.
Sorry,
but
which
don't quote
specific
me on
one?
that.
No, I don't get what you said.
The beach challenges. Remember how in the original version of this game, you know, there were a few beach challenges that we went through to, you know, I forget which collectibles we got, but, you know, we got some gear, basically, from challenges on the beach.
I don't know what you're actually thinking, Jova, but there was no such case. The closest was going inside the buildings to get the O2 mask, which we're gonna do after this. And that was like that also in the original game. So I don't know what game you're actually thinking. Maybe Spyro 2?
Oh, goodness gracious. I'd like to think my memory isn't fried to the point where I mistake a dragon with a Lombax.
Well, you were clearly remembering the actions rather than the person doing them.
Fair enough.
Anyway, let's get our upgrade.
That was incredible. Hey, if you two need any more upgrades, I'm your guy. How about
I think one potential thing that makes uncanny Big Al's design is the fact that they render these teeth.
That certainly sounds useful.
While in the original it was just the classic, you know, flapping guns from Spyro games.
Yeah, the way he was shot just then with the camera zooming in, I thought someone was gonna sneak up from behind and knock him out.
Yeah, again, the one weak link is that the basic interactions in the levels are basically just the camera back and forth with very minimal amount of animations for the characters. Again, it's so weird because in the original game, by contrast, the characters were fairly expressive, you know. So again, this really just showcased the fact that this game had a very limited, you know, development cycle in terms of time.
You know, one thing I don't get is, like, why did they outright replace Bob with Big Al? Like, I mean, if anything, couldn't you have established that Bob and Big Al were actually brothers instead of just
I guess they
getting rid of
wanted to have the same, you know, not create a different model, you know, just use the same one and say it goes for the voice actor. Simple as that.
Which, yeah, would pretty much match up with the whole
Again, Joba, when you're pondering a
time.
question, always return to the whole, this game was rushed in 10 months and they had to cut corners as much as they could.
Yeah, this is probably part of the reason why we don't see licensed movie tie-ins. At least, you know, stuff that's not coming out around the same time as its movie release date these days.
Even tying games, these days the more in thing to do for tying games is to be original stories that are set in between movies usually, like the Fast and Furious games, RoboCop and Terminator, you know.
Or Lego Batman Legend of the Dark Knight, which is definitely doing its own
well,
thing.
the Lego games have always been
movie.
kind of their own thing, even when retreading the steps of the movies they were parodying.
Well, the thing is, though, it used to be that, you know, usually they would come out around the time of, say, the latest movie of whatever compilation of stuff
I know that
they were doing.
infamously Lego The Hobbit adapts only the first two movies and was supposed to have Battle of the Five Armies as DLC, but that didn't happen. Oops.
Yeah. And then basically, if I recall correctly, the Pirates of the Caribbean Lego game came out around the same time as On Stranger Tides came out, essentially. So, my point is, like, you know, they weren't the most traditional video game movie tie-ins, but you could tell what they were trying to do, at least with their timing, essentially. I will say this, though. I could maybe get it in, like, you know, let's say days like the early 2000s, but I never got why a lot of companies really thought, oh no, we've absolutely got to get a movie out around the same time as its theater release. There are some cases where I do get, but other times it's like, dude,
promotional synergy. They think it's a case of, oh, people are going to see the movie, then they want to maybe, you know, have the part of the experience at home. Back in the day, especially for the Disney stuff, that was so that you could get clips from the movie at your home before the home video. That was the entire appeal. It's the same reason of the thing that Inkara mentioned why there aren't that many comic book adaptations these days, because back in the day it was a viable alternative to home video, which was more of a luxury and you know, something that wasn't as you know, common for literally everyone who could afford them. While these days, well, you don't really need it, and the only people who are still doing them are mostly, you know, Disney with their Star Wars stuff.
Anyway, though, but yeah, no, adaptations, I feel, do still have a place in the world, but it is probably for the best that most cases are realizing that they can do a means of doing that without having to rust the hell out of them. Because, you know, I do think that there is place in the world for video game adaptations of movies. It's just that, well, obviously they should not be rushed, which was kind of the reason a lot were not that great, essentially. Which is a shame because there are quite a few notable good ones. Although one thing I do notice is that they had, and maybe it was part of it because it was more so me as a kid who played them, but movie adaptations, video game-wise anyway, seem to be rather tough with difficulty more often than not. It wasn't, a consistent case, but I do remember a lot of notable examples like the Lion King and Beauty and the Beast games, the SpongeBob movie game, specifically the console one, is very challenging. The one on PC is more of an adventure point-and-click game, but I digress.
It really depended also on who made them, how much time was it tied to actually, make them and so on.
Of course, the less said about LJN, the better.
Oh, don't worry, even without them, it was also a case where, games done even recently became kind of prominent. There was this infamous European developer that mostly developed things for the UK that made a bunch of licensed games in the mid-2000s for the PS2, exclusively for Europe, if I recall correctly, that makes you ponder why they did that. Like, for example, one based on American Tail, and the one that Wibbs recorded all those years ago, one based on Home Alone.
What music track? What music's this?
More near soundtrack, if I remember correctly.
Oh, well, I thought it was something from like the Famicom disk system.
No, remember, if it's 8-bit, it's near Automata when in one of the hacking segments. So.
In we go.
Remember, we're here to get the O2 mask, like in the original.
Yeah, okay, so now I remember why I may have mistaken it with the C challenge. It's more so that they asked the owner to give them the O2 mask, but instead you have like that sort of pseudo escort mission. So that's the challenge I was thinking of. I could have sworn that there was like a surfboarding challenge, but you might be right and I'm mistaking that.
No,
with
the
something
close
else.
to a surfboard challenge would have been one of the hoverboard races in Size Matters, and even then they were not on Pokitaru. If I recall correctly, in the original game, the person that gives you the O2 mask is the same scientist that gave you the grind boots on the Blargs space station, and in here it also potentially gave you the gadget that allows you to get a discount at shop vendors, while instead in here you just get the O2 mask. And yeah, we've over to insert, if I recall correctly, a couple of amiiboids here, because why not? Also, fun fact, when it comes to upgrading the Pixelator, one of the upgrades that the two upgrades that you get for it, the perks, is that the pixelated enemies, as in the ones that are defeated and are a bunch of, particles that you can smash, can potentially contain either a small health pack or a bunch of ammunition. How does that even work is beyond me, but it's kinda cool, so...
How cool would it have been if the upgrades made it so that instead of just dissolving into pixels, at one point they turn into like 32-bit bits, and then in another upgrade they turn into 64-bit polygons.
Now I can finally breathe.
Well, keep in mind that as the Insomniac themselves mentioned, they had a lot of struggle to make the Pixelator work, so I'm taking already the fact that it works like this.
Oh yeah, look. What I'm saying is strictly hypothetical, and I do... I guess not everything can look great, but I guess if they had to sacrifice one thing, the draw distance underwater...
I can imagine maybe on the PS5 it works a bit better, but I don't know. Anyway, before leaving, let's just get to the optional area with the gold bolt, if I recall correctly. Go on.
Like you said, almost every shortcoming of this game, mechanically speaking, we can chalk up to the fact that it was rushed for a theater simultaneous release. And yet, it's one of those funny cases where, didn't this game come out a bit before the movie?
I don't remember what was the release date in relation to the movie, to be honest. And again, it didn't even really matter much because for a lot of different countries it was a case of a different dub anyway.
Okay, let's see. So the movie came out in April 13th, specifically in France.
Yeah,
And
premiere
came
there.
out in America in April 29th. So assuming that you're watching this in America, the game came out before the movie in America by... Oh, April 12th, so yeah,
Not
that's
too
17 days.
Still a bit of
So
still
essentially-
enough of a synergy, basically. I guess it was a
But the
case
funny
of if
thing
you want to
is-
see clips of a movie beforehand, you can get the game. Maybe that was the appeal.
What I point out is,
Pokitaru.
what I point out as funny is that technically this is kind of a spoiler for the movie since this is one that takes place after the movie. That's always one of the most hilarious outcomes where a game that's, you know...
Look at all this
Set after-
flashing!
Jesus, we get it, okay? Water effects, but it doesn't mean...
How
it
heavy
needs
is that
to-
suit he's wearing?
Yes.
I know, right?
Well, sorry, Mr. Zirko, we have to go home.
Yes. But yeah, no, like, I always find it just a funny outcome when the game that clearly takes place after the movie comes out before the game with quite a good chunk of time, which leads to people getting spoiled on severe aspects of it. Most notably, I think, is Treasure Planet, the Battle of Pyrocon, which the game takes place years after the movie,
Yeah, so it's
and
an official
does
sequel,
indeed go in,
basically.
and does go into crucial details about stuff that happened in the movie, so whoopsie.
Back in the day, for all
Although-
of Disney games, it was also an occasion to see a couple of placeholder voice actors when they use for scenes in the movies. Again, I cannot speak for the English language, but for my country, a lot of Disney interactive games, like Hercules, for example, did have the placeholder VAs for some of the cutscenes, and the characters sound so fucking different as a result.
Ugh.
Again, not necessarily to a bad degree, it's just, you know, different. Alright, in the next part, we will go finally to assault the Blarg base on Quartu, but again, don't expect a recreation from that planet from the original game, so tune in next part to find it out. See ya.
Oh, what
See ya.
fun awaits us.